Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, the CQ. CQ. Calling anybody who wants to take a little time to have a conversation. Maybe a conversation that actually counts. 15 to 20 minutes, a little bit less perhaps. But remember, if you take 20 minutes every day to learn something new about something that might be important to you, you do that and keep doing that. As someone said, I think his name was a guy named Dennis Waitley, and he was very much influenced by a guy named Brian Tracy a number of years ago. They're still around, at least Brian, I believe, is. And they simply said, if you do that, within 7 years, you could be a world-class expert. Learn something new 20 minutes every day. Well, that's what we're all about, trying to do something like that from time to time. And on this Wednesday, I'd like to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, because I am one, and that is being an introvert. Right? That's right, being an introvert. And then I want to introduce you more and more to your invitation to be a part of Interesting Ideas. So if you can give me a little time today, we're going to talk about being an introvert and about you being a part of Interesting Ideas. That's the program today. That's the adventure. That's the exploration. Let's see where it leads us today. The program starts right now. Well, first of all, please take a little time to think about this and write this down. Remember, our program is Interesting Ideas. And why should you be looking for interesting ideas? Well, first of all, it'll make you more interesting, and that might be helpful. Make you more interesting. It may also make you more interested in other people, and that I know will be helpful. And so what we've done is there are all kinds of different interesting ideas that we can seek to discover, or maybe even create ourselves, and hopefully share with others. So here we go. Here are the 7 interesting ideas. They could be intelligent ideas. They could be inquisitive ideas. Maybe inspirational ideas. Maybe instructional ideas. Maybe those ideas that kind of, stir things up and get us thinking, moving, doing. Instigating ideas. They could be innovative ideas, which encourage us to create something new. And they could be idealistic ideas, which perhaps promote and encourage us to live up to something that is ideal, something that is good, that is part of the best in the human species and in the world community. So, are you seeking to have every day some way of coming up with new ideas of those 7? Now, what I would like to do is get 7 people, and it could be you, but then we're putting together the 7 things we might want to talk about together. What I would call 7 arenas for a conversation that counts. Now, see how we're trying to build this into a community. It's people talking to one another, not shouting, not yelling, not writing nasty posts or things like that. People in a conversation, and it can be a strong conversation, oftentimes that's necessary, about different ideas. And hopefully when this happens, there will be some insights we weren't expecting. There might be some influence that you have on others. Maybe you will even have impact. And as my good friend Rod tells me, he says, and it's impact that drives income. And so perhaps that is true for you too. And in a way, I see what he means. And remember, what we mean is income is not just money or that kind of stuff that counts as money. It can be income that comes in more and better ideas. It could be relationships. It could be a whole variety of things that come to us. They're good incoming things that come to us because we're in the world of good ideas. So that's what we'll be thinking about. 7 ideas, 7 kinds of ideas, 7 arenas for conversation, and at least 7 people who would like to be around to hold those conversations. I would be grateful if you would start to be a part of that. We have now in this work that I've just posted in Interesting Ideas. It goes back about 3.5, 4 years, maybe 5, when we first began to do these podcasts, and there's now about 700 of them, maybe a little bit more. I think that's about 700. But now they are all together in a YouTube channel just simply called Interesting Ideas. And I think I may have my name with it. Interesting Ideas. Stan Houston. Look for that on the YouTube channel, and you will find all kinds of little programs with ideas that might be helpful to you. And I'm grateful to many of you who are already starting to pick them and look at them and comment on them. Thank you so very, very much for doing that. Well, as I promised, we're going to be talking about introversion, and then we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, and a key thing on Friday, maybe Friday going into Saturday, how to win the AI war. Will artificial intelligence replace you, or will it make you irreplaceable? That's part of what we're doing. But now, let's get to the subject that may have attracted you. Well, as I've mentioned before, I'm always very grateful, and I always give full credit to a variety of things that are out there now, short form, thinker, blink, right now. And this makes it difficult for those of us who are trying to be creative, because we may write a big, fancy book that takes a lot of time, maybe years, but then somebody can get permission, and they can, and they do, to summarize it in such a way that, we can perhaps find the information that really strikes us in maybe 10 or 15 or 20 minutes, something like that. And so, first of all, let me make sure that I'm giving full attribution. And this is from Thinker, Thinkr, and like many of these sources and the way the world is, you have to give something away for free before you can get paid and get a fee. So they give summaries. However, if you want to buy the book, of course, you have to pay for the book. Or if you want to get sometimes a greater amount of these things that they have done, you have to pay a membership fee or a subscription fee, or you perhaps have to buy it piece by piece. And so that's one of the very wonderful things that's happening, and sometimes it lives up to my prediction that sometimes it's 30 pages of good ideas, but they crammed it into 300. Because maybe what you need to learn, you could learn in a shorter time that might be helpful to you. So the book is by a woman named Susan Cain, and it's called Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And here's what she says, or what the book proclaims. What you'll learn: 1 out of every 3 people you meet is an introvert. And these people are overlooked in a culture that favors extroversion. Quiet, that's the name. Quiet points to the hidden and often undervalued strengths that introverts possess. Well, let me just read you a few things that are the headlights, the key insights, and then I do so in a way to encourage you to perhaps find out more. The United States has been obsessed with self-help for centuries. It's the ideals that have changed over time. John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress was a common book in colonial New England. It was a guide for how to keep to the straight and narrow amidst life's dangers, toils, and snares. The how-to literature kept a religious flavor as America grew and became its own nation. But the language became less celestial and centered more around the cultivation of virtue during the 1800s. Then America underwent yet another shift at the beginning of the 1900s. Cultural historian Warren Sussman referred to this shift as one from a culture of character to a culture of personality. Yeah. And of course, one of my heroes, Dale Carnegie, writes about this, how to win friends and influence people, and we've tried to do an update on that, and that'll be coming up with a new version that hopefully will have a little more of a contribution to character and spiritual things. But this was the way the world was, and some wonderful things that came out of that particular, be good at what you do. Seek to be excellent. Carl Jung saw the introvert situation as a precarious one. The introvert lived in a world with a diminishing appreciation for solitude and deep thought. It didn't matter how virtuous or bright you were if you kept to yourself and lived a relatively anonymous existence. And very, very much so, as someone pointed out, that John Quincy Adams, it was said, America prided themselves on being people of action. In the John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson presidential race, the Jackson campaign wielded the power of action over thought with the pithy slogan, John Quincy Adams, who can write, and Andrew Jackson, who can fight. It was the fighter, not the writer, who was elected to the office of president. So, if Lincoln epitomized the culture of character, that's what she says going forward, Susan says, then Tony Robbins epitomizes the culture of personality. And many of you know of him, obviously incredibly successful in the motivational arena. And in the book, she talks about that, and I think you would find that that is a very helpful deal. Then number 3 in the things, at Harvard Business School, introverts are nowhere to be seen. In effect, the business world has rewarded, the charismatic, the gung-ho, action-oriented personality. And much of our leadership has come from that kind of culture. And who wonders and says, I wonder if that is a good thing. Well, then, number 4, here's part of the issue. Introverts and extroverts process dopamine differently. Introvert and extrovert brains are structurally different. These differences make introverts more sensitive to danger and more risk-averse, but also less allured by the promise of reward. Introverts tend to be high reactive personalities, easily affected by experiences, both positive and negative. It takes less stimulus to overwhelm them. Sometimes children are like dandelions, which can sprout and thrive anywhere, while many introverts, more like orchids, who go strong and blossom beautifully in a nurturing environment. Well, that's an interesting point, that in effect, the extrovert, and I'm not one. My wife totally is. I very strongly am an introvert, and As one of my daughters used to say, my dad would have been very happy being a monk in the Middle Ages with his Mac. Being alone and by himself is no problem for him. And, of course, my wife thrives on not trying to gain attention, but she thrives on being with people and helping people. And she is one of the nicest and friendliest persons in the world. Very extroverted, very, very much like her mother, who we oftentimes said could have a 10-minute conversation with a wrong number, which actually happened one time because she was always reaching out to other people. So I find that interesting to realize that, maybe our extroversion and our introversion are much more endemic to who we are, and we've taken the Myers-Briggs, and I have, and like I said, I come introverted off the map. However, what happened was that a number of people encouraged me to try and live in a more extroverted world and gain some of the skills and the abilities and the ideas to, I loved listening to the radio, but I never thought about being on the radio. That happened much later in my life. And so, in effect, the drama and the performing and the doing the radio and video were later qualities that came to me. And as my wife would say, Stanley was Shy Stanley when I first met him. That's where I found that kind of appealing, opposites attract. And that was attractive to her. Well, then I've changed in many ways, but now she still realizes that I am an introvert. And that's the way I am. Now, raising kids to value their introversion in a culture that does not is challenging, but far from impossible. And that's where I'm just simply going to say that's the end of my discussion, because, this is well worth you taking some time to read. If you are an introvert, you can learn how to survive and perform in a culture of extroversion. However, I am sick and tired of all of the narcissistic self-promoters. And of course, I try not to be that way, but the world is full of them, and God, please give us less of them. On the other hand, one of the things I'm truly trying to encourage people who are quiet and shy and introverted to know, there is a way for you to, in this world and in this media environment, that you can have a little higher performance, a little higher position, a little higher place, that you can have a way that your ideas, not just your action, but your ideas, your thoughtfulness, your kindness, your graciousness, your way of helping others can be noticed and get greater rewards for being that way. And so one of the programs I put together is how to promote yourself as a shy person. How to promote yourself if you are a shy person. And I actually have a little class on that, which I put together, but I haven't really promoted it that much. I've given it to people in a kind and personal way, but maybe I should do more about that. But let me just encourage you right now. If you are an extrovert, be grateful, because the culture tends to remind that. But please, for your sake and God's sake, stop the narcissism. Stop that kind of view that I am everything and everybody should be influenced by me. See if you can't walk that back a little bit, Because what's going to happen is reality is going to humiliate you someday, some way. That kind of lifestyle will lead to perhaps something you don't want, and that's more than a touch, maybe a big hit of humility. And however, if you are blessed with a quiet spirit, a quiet heart, a humble way of being, there are ways for that to shine, for that to be appreciated, to be noticed, and perhaps even to give you more influence, impact, and income by being very true to the self that is you. You're just a wonderful introvert in a culture that unfortunately tends to reward noise. Hey, if you'd want a little help with this, I'd be glad to see if I could help you. Reach out to me, stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com, and maybe we should have a little class on, self-promotion. And you even don't like that term, do you? Self-promotion for shy people. stanhouston@gmail.com, stanhouston@gmail.com, and we will look forward to talking about artificial intelligence, also what I have a love-hate relationship with Amazon and the China factor. All of that's coming up this week, so stay tuned, stay with us. Interesting ideas, make you more interesting and help you to enjoy some of those things that come even to a quietly introverted, interesting person. Till then, bye for now.